What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be installing a new winch on my brother's 2022 Kawasaki Teryx. Now the winch that we are installing today is the Black Ops series 4,500 pound winch from SuperATV. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's get this project started. Okay, as I was saying before, this is a 2022 Kawasaki Teryx S. And typically from the factory, this is what the front end is going to look like right here. Now there is a plate here already that you could mount most smaller winches to, but once you start getting into a larger 4,500 pound winch, there's not enough space in between this bar right here to fit it, which is why it is typically recommended to also buy a winch mounting plate. Now the SuperATV winch does come with a universal plate, but I'm not always a big fan of using universal plates because they don't always line up and you typically have to drill more holes to make them fit. So my brother ended up opting to purchase the SuperATV winch mounting kit in addition to the winch itself. So to get this installed, it's really not going to be that bad. The SuperATV winch is actually pretty simple to mount everything together, but we are going to have to do a few things first. One of the first things I recommend doing is taking off the factory front bumper because that's going to give you a lot more room to work with down here in the front grille area. Then we'll have to remove the hood, we'll have to mount the solenoid, then we'll have to run a few wires. But before we get into all that, let's take a look at the winch itself. Okay, so again, this is the SuperATV Black Ops series winch. This is a 4,500 pound winch, so it's going to be a perfect match for most UTVs. If we just look at some of the key features, it does come with the 50-foot synthetic rope, which is really nice. It won't bind up on you so much. It does come with a wireless remote, which is really nice because I have a winch on my UTV and I don't have the wireless remote. So I have to actually plug the remote in when I'm getting out of the vehicle to work the winch. On this particular kit, you do not. You have a wireless remote, which is a really great feature. It also comes with a cable dash mounted control box, so you can have a switch on your dash as well. It does have an aluminum fair lead here as well. It's a high performance motor, and it does come with a 1-year warranty from SuperATV, which is really nice as well. And just open up the box. It'll come with all of your instructions to mount this. Put that to the side. Here is your universal mounting plate, which again, depending on your UTV, this might be handy, but we're not going to be using this today because over in this box here, we have the SuperATV winch mounting kit specific to the Kawasaki Teryx. Take the lid off here. This is what's in the box. So as you can see here, this is a pretty wide winch. If we just pull out a measuring tape here, you're easily over 14 inches long. So this is a pretty big winch. It does come with your wireless remote, as I mentioned before, which is a really nice feature. It comes with all of your wires, all of your cables. Here is your solenoid box that we'll have to mount inside. It comes with all of your hardware. So again, it comes with everything you need. And then in this box over here, this is the SuperATV winch mounting kit specific to the Kawasaki Teryx. So again, it comes with all of your hardware. Set that aside. It comes with some additional stickers and decals. And here is all of your parts to mount this new mounting plate, which is right here. And this one is going to basically mount over here on this angled portion here. So without further ado, let me start taking off this front bumper. Let me take off the hood and we're going to jump into this install. Okay, so we got the front grille taken off. Very, very simple and easy to do. The first thing you want to do is take this bottom plate off from the bottom. It's just held in by 2 small bolts on the bottom. Removing that will give you a little bit more clearance to pull your front bumper off. Then on the bumper, there's going to be 4 screws. So 1 up here, 1 down there on both sides. Once you take that bottom plate off, the bumper comes right off. That's going to give you a lot more clearance. So next, we're going to work on getting the mounting plate installed. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here's your SuperATV mounting plate after we got it out of the box. It has your main part right here that's going to mount to these 4 bolt areas here. You're going to have your sides that are going to get mounted and bolted to the main bracket. And then you have a couple front pieces here that we'll get into last. So all you really have to do is take these 4 main bolts out right here. Then you're going to take your mounting plate just like this with the flat part at the top, okay? And it's going to mount just like that. So let me go ahead and do that first and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back and we went ahead and we got our winch plate mounted. You're going to be using the supplied hardware to do this. Now to mount the original bracket to the frame down here, you're gonna use the factory 4 bolts. Then you're gonna use the supplied bolts that come with this mounting plate kit, and there's gonna be 8 larger bolts. You're gonna use 4 of the larger bolts for mounting the side plate into the top and to the back. Same thing on this side here. You're gonna use the 4 larger bolts for the back of the side plate and the top of the side plate. Then you're gonna mount your fair lead plate onto the front. It's gonna be sticking out the front like that. Now it's gonna come with 4 smaller bolts, but you're gonna use 2 of the smaller bolts to mount that in. Now don't tighten this down all the way. You wanna make sure you tighten down the other bolts nice and tight, and I would even suggest using some blue Loctite on there, but don't tighten these down all the way because you need to be able to slide your winch in from the top. So basically what you're gonna do is take your winch and you're gonna have your dowel here towards the right, and you're gonna slide it in just like that, okay? Then you can go ahead and tighten down your fair lead plate like that. So once you have your winch in on the top like that, where the SuperATV logo is on the left facing you and your dial here is on the right, then what you're gonna do is take the bolts that came with your actual winch and you're gonna come up from the bottom under here into the bottom of your winch. So let me go ahead and get that mounted on nice and tight, and then we're gonna move on to our wiring. So I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, so we got our winch mounted on. Again, when you open up the hardware kit for the actual winch, you're gonna get a pile of bolts over here like this. Just take 4 of the hex nut bolts here with a lock washer and a washer. Slide them up underneath here in the single hole, not the oval long hole here. It'll be the single hole here on all 4, and then get that mounted down nice and tight. Once you get that mounted nice and tight, then you can go back through, tighten up your fair lead bracket with the bolts on the bottom, get that all mounted in. So now our mounting plate and our winch has been mounted to the machine. It's nice and sturdy and tight. Now we can move on to the next step, which is gonna be getting our wiring taken care of. So the first thing we're probably gonna have to do is get our solenoid mounted, which based off the instructions, SuperATV recommends mounting your solenoid over here onto this plastic piece right here. Okay, so we got our solenoid mounted to the front here. Again, because I used the bolts that came with the mounting plate kit, there's gonna be extra bolts left in the kit that comes with the actual winch. So I had some extra smaller bolts that came in that kit. So I just drilled a tiny little hole in the top of this plastic plate here and used the 2 smaller bolts with the lock nuts and washers to mount the solenoid to this. This lead cable here is gonna connect to this lead cable here that goes directly to your toggle switch that we're gonna run through the firewall area here and mount to the front dash area. These 4 cables here are gonna go from the solenoid. Positive and ground's gonna go to your battery. Positive and ground's gonna loop down and go to the positive and ground of your winch. So the next thing I'm gonna do is probably just take a little plastic pry tool like this and then wedge it in here to pop this dash panel off so I can get a little bit more access to an area, hopefully right through here, that I could use to run my cable right straight through there to the front of the dash to mount my switch. So let me start doing that and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're inside the cab here. I just went ahead and used my pry tool to pop off that main panel right there. Again, they're just plastic pressure clips, so once you pop them off, it releases itself. And then right there is the hole I'm gonna use to pull the wire switch straight from under here, pull it right through there. And then my goal is to probably flip this over and cut out one of these little holes right here to pop my switch in right there. So let me keep working on that and we'll be right back. Okay, so far so good. I do have the wire switch from inside the dash coming through that hole and it's sitting right here. So I have that ready to go. I did go ahead and run my power and ground, which is the black and red, to the battery. If you come down here, I just have them coming down from the top behind this bracket here and connected right to the battery, to the ground and to the positive. Now, they do give you a ton of wire depending on where you want to mount your solenoid. So if you're mounting the solenoid closer to the battery like I did, you're not going to need all this excess wire, which is why in the kit, they do give you some extra fittings here. They give you some extra shrink wrap pieces and extra rubber boots. So all I did was run my power and ground up to the solenoid here and then cut the wire short, added my fittings on, crimped them down, and now I'm just putting my shrink wrap on, then I'll get them attached to the solenoid. So let me keep working on that and I'll be right back. Okay, so we went ahead and we got our blue and yellow wire for the positive and ground of the winch, ran up around the back. We have that tied into the solenoid, as well as the red and black wire for the ground and power coming from the battery to the solenoid. So all of that is hooked up right now. Now I just have to go ahead and tap into my fuse lines right here and find a ignition powered wire. So all we have to do is pop out both of these fuse blocks. We're going to open it up. We're going to test for any kind of power in them already. And basically what we're looking for is to test it with the key off to figure out which wires have power already and then not use those. Then we're going to go ahead, turn the ignition on and test the other wires because we're looking for a wire that only goes hot when you turn the key on. Once we do that, we're going to tap into that wire with this red wire that's coming off of our switch harness here. So let me go start doing that and we'll be right back. Okay, so all I did was unplug this. It was just sitting right here. And then I pulled these two plugs from right here, just pulled them off. Then you want to take the outer caps off. To do that, there's a little pin in the back. Just kind of press it, pull it against you, and the cap pops right off. So now we have both of these exposed and we can see the wires that are going to these harnesses. So now what we're going to do is test to see if any of them are hot. So I grounded this tester rod here just over to the frame bolt here, and we're just going to go in here and test to see if we have any power in here already. Let me go ahead and turn the key on to the on position. And let's test them again. That's a good one there. That would be that brown one with the blue wire. Okay, so there's a good one there. That's a little bit. And this brown one with the blue wire over here. So it looks like the brown with the blue wire is the one that lights up our tester with the ignition on. So that's the one we want to tap into, is the brown with the blue wire. Okay, so we're finally done with all the wiring. So again, just to recap, I took my positive and ground from the solenoid just straight down there to the battery. I then took my blue and yellow, which is the negative and ground, from the solenoid down to the side of the actual winch. Got that done. Then what I did was I came in here and I cut out the one hole right here for the switch, and then I ran my wire for the switch through that panel because it's a little easier to just run it through the panel than sit there and try to take apart all of those little connections on the back of the switch. Ran it through that panel, in through the dash, under here, came down here, plugged my cable into here. I then took the red lead wire attached to this cable, ran it up over here, tapped into that brown with blue stripe wire coming that we tested earlier that's hot when the ignition's turned on, taped everything up. So everything should be pretty good. So let's go ahead and test it out. Come over here. Okay. Turn the key on. Switch is lit up. Let's listen for it. So now that we verified that we have power and the winch is working in and out, now let's go ahead, put everything back together, and we'll test it out here in a minute. Okay, we are finally done. We got everything put back together. Now I did go ahead and take this front fair lead plate that came with the winch and I mounted it to the plate behind it that came with the mounting kit. I just added it in there because the internal piece right here is a little smoother and rounded compared to the regular bracket here. So I thought that would actually help protect the rope here a little bit better. So once I got that mounted on, I just used the bolts that came with the kit. And then I just added the stopper here at the end. You just put the two pieces together, bolt it down like that with the 4 bolts. And then I just went ahead and took my hook here, put it in with a cotter pin, and put my little red strap on the front like that. So now we have everything hooked up. I did go ahead and add a little bit of wire loom here that I had laying around to these outside cables here, just to help protect them a little bit better from the outside inclement weather. So I got all that done. Again, everything's wired up under the hood as we've seen it before. Let's go ahead and check in the front dash. That turned out pretty good. Nice seamless switch right here. So if we go ahead and turn on our ignition, we can go ahead and pull it out. We're in. So that's a nice feature there. Then this comes with a remote. Now this is a wireless remote So to activate the remote, you're gonna hold the two buttons in here for about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Light turns on, now it should work. So you're gonna have your out and in. Let me just go ahead and grab it like this with my finger, and then we're just gonna hit our out button. Okay, and now we're gonna go ahead and reel it in. We're gonna hit the reel in button. Now when you're dealing with these kind of ropes like this, it's best to kind of just pay attention to this little sleeve right here, because sometimes these sleeves can actually get bunched up a little bit. So when I'm getting down to the very end here, I'll come up here and just hold it up a little bit and just try to push the sleeve in there a little bit better, because a lot of times the sleeve just gets bunched up. So, and we are good to go. And then to turn the remote off, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna hit the two buttons here. 1, 2, 3, light goes off. It's all good to go. And then the other feature about this winch that most winches have is your manual release. You go ahead and rotate it forward to where this little dial right here where my thumb is facing forward. Now you can go ahead and manually pull out your rope. Just make sure that when you're ready to reel it back in, you rotate the switch back to the back, and then the motor will reel it back in. But so far, everything's on there. Everything's mounted nice and tight. That's what it looks like there. And we are good to go. Okay, real quick, sorry for the wind. I just wanted to come outside real quick. I have the Teryx shut off and put in neutral. I used the manual mode to take the cable from the winch, and I just hooked it up to the back of my truck. We're just gonna go ahead and try out the remote and see if we can actually pull the Teryx over to here using the winch. Is just a little trial. Just gotta go ahead and turn the ignition on. Let's get and try it out. So again, I'm using the wireless remote. Here we go, it's moving. So again, having a winch on your UTV is highly recommended, because anytime you happen to get stuck, you can always use your winch to pull yourself out of really bad situations. But as you can see here, I'm just using the winch attached to my truck over here, and I'm pulling it across. Oh yes, this is in neutral, it's on a flat piece of ground, but you get the idea. But again, I'm really happy with the winch. It works great, and I think it's a great value. Okay, everybody, so there you go. So the install was not really that hard. The kit comes with everything you need. I do recommend buying the separate SuperATV Winch mounting kit that is specific to the Kawasaki Teryx, because it just makes the overall install a little easier, and I think it looks a lot better. But other than that, everything wired up pretty good. The directions are lacking a little bit, but SuperATV typically wants you to go to their website and watch their install videos, which are pretty good. They're not super detailed, but they do cover the basics to at least give you an idea what you need to do. But at the end of the day, we got everything wired up. Everything works perfectly, just as it should, and I'm really impressed with the SuperATV 4,500 pound winch. This is the Black Ops series, and I highly recommend it. So that's it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, because it definitely helps me out, and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.